Hello, everyone, and welcome to Roosevelt Field. I'm Jeff Brandon along with Walt Fry, and this is Thanksgiving Day football for the first time in a long time. And, Walt, it's an exciting feeling. The atmosphere, perhaps not what it was back in those many decades when we played Upper Merion for so many years and alternate years, but I think this is certainly the reestablishment of a tradition, hopefully.
Absolutely, and with the local rivalry again, it's an even more exciting game than it would be playing, say, Souderton as Norristown did in 1993. I think you have to give it some time to build back up, and people didn't even know 2 weeks ago if this game was going to be played because of the Plymouth Whitemarsh playoff chase. So I think once the excitement builds up, hopefully we can continue this rivalry.
Certainly we expect a fine game today. The host Eagles taking on the Colonials of Plymouth Whitemarsh, as Walt just mentioned to you. And Walt, Norristown coming into this ball game, a chance to even their record out for the year at 6-6. They struggled this year, compiling a 5-6 record to date, but they've really played much better in the last several games. Really come together as a team.
Yeah, and I think evening that record, even though it's just a record, and obviously they would have loved to be in the playoffs and things like that, evening the record is going to mean something this year, because really they did start off slow, and I don't know how much was expected of them with a lot of young players, but they really came on at the end of the year. And when you can even the record up with a game like this in front of a home crowd, Thanksgiving Day, new rivalry, it just means that much more.
And for the Colonials, certainly, perhaps a bit of an emotional letdown for them. The chance exists, having lost in the District 1 championship game to the Bucks of Central Bucks West. Colonials compiling an impressive record this year, coming into this game at 10-2. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how they'll react to this game.
Yeah, there's talk that they're going to be a little bit down, a little bit drained from the playoff chase. Of course they're disappointed, but that was 2 weeks ago, and they'd rather be playing the playoffs this weekend, but I don't think that's going to matter in this game. I think once they get into this game and a little bit of Thanksgiving rivalry, I mean, they haven't played on Thanksgiving for a while either, so it's important to them. And it's obviously important to the seniors just to win their last game. They're a very senior-based team. So those guys are going to be motivated by that factor.
Absolutely, you're right. 19 senior players for the Colonials moving on. And I'll tell you, this squad over the past 3 years has just been unbelievable, compiling a 33-5 record, 3 consecutive playoff appearances, a district championship under their belts. You can't say enough about the success that Joe Iacovetti has brought to PW's football team.
Yeah, there's something special, offensively and defensively, but they are an offensive juggernaut. Going to be a lot of fun to watch, and Norristown really with a challenge on their hands. Definitely the best team they faced this year.
And Walt, the weather today, beautiful sunny skies, but it is cold and it is blustery. We've probably got 35-mile-an-hour winds out there, and it's going to be blowing on your screen, folks, from left to right, from west to east here. So Norristown will be defending the goal to the left of your screen. The Eagles out there in their home blue uniforms. The Colonials will be working into the wind here in this first quarter. But I don't expect that to be a big factor for them. They run the ball.
Yeah, they love to run the ball. They have a 3-pronged attack running the ball, but they will throw it too. They've thrown a good bit this year. So they have a very diverse offense. When I say it's the best team Norristown's faced, definitely the best and most diverse offensive team that Norristown has faced this year.
And back deep for the Colonials will be 2 of those star running backs, number 20, James Scott, number 33, Craig Quinn. Those 2 gentlemen have really led the rushing attack this year. Quinn coming into this ball game with 1,178 yards. Scott with 1,358 yards. Just an amazing tandem in that 3-back set that the Colonials use, rounded out by fullback Dan Kelly, who comes into this game himself with 825 yards. Kicking off for Norristown is the senior place kicker, Albie Morano. Morano will have the benefit of the wind, and considering the strength of Morano's leg, this ball might go into the parking lot here at Roosevelt Field. We're ready to go. The kick is up. It's taken deep at about the 4-yard line, bobbled by Quinn, and up the right side. Eagle coverage is good, and Quinn is dropped at the 20-yard line. We'll credit Jim Zitzer, number 11, with the tackle on that special teams play. Let's set the offense and defense for you real quick. We just talked about that backfield for the Colonials. It's Scott, Quinn, and Kelly, led by quarterback Paul Kupfer. His favorite receiving target is his brother, tight end Stu Kupfer. The split end is number 44, Jeff Brown. We'll give you the rest of that lineup in just a moment, but first, the first play from scrimmage. The handoff goes to Quinn off the left side. The Eagles contain. Across that line for the Colonials, number 75, Brian Dugas at tackle, along with number 68, Chuck Tornetta. The guards are B.J. Murray, number 60, and number 61, Steve Miller. The center is Sean Beard. And Walt, the Eagles playing their typical 5-2 defensive scheme, which hopefully will allow them to stop the run today.
Yeah, they're going to be hurt really by the loss of James Burrell, but the front's going to be Webster, White, Ginyard, Cabold, and Ellis up there to try and contain that rushing attack.
On 2nd and 9, Kupfer. Hands off the right side. There's running room there. Number 20, James Scott, is dropped short of a first down. The rest of those Eagle defenders.
Yeah, of course, behind them, it's going to be really important for them to make the tackles after those running backs get through the defensive line. Darrell Johnson and Greg DeLucia, the linebackers. The safeties today, number 4, A.J. Hamaday, number 10, Garvin Stewart. And the corners, number 5, Audley Stewart, and number 2, Don Milligan, will have to watch the occasional pass from the Colonials.
3rd and inches here. Kupfer sets the offense. The quick handoff goes to Scott. He's stopped. Boy, I'll tell you, Walt, it's close, but it looked like a great surge by the Norristown defenders. I don't think James Scott made it.
Yeah, they hit him right away. Really got down there low, and it's those front 5 that time who got in to hold up James Scott.
Officials call time. Looks like we might have a measurement here. It was virtually inches that they had to go here on this 3rd down play from just their side of the 30-yard line. We're just underway here at Roosevelt Field. First offensive possession. Oh, they got it by the nose of the football. First down. Norristown defenders, though, showing they're not afraid of this running game. The Colonials do just enough to get a first down here.
Yeah, would have been an important stop for the Eagles right there. Really would have pumped them up, but they have to be happy that they were able to penetrate right there and not be too disappointed that they couldn't hold them.
So 1st and 10 now for PW from their own 30-yard line. In motion, the handoff comes to Quinn. Quinn is contained beautifully. Garvin Stewart comes up with DeLucia to make the tackle. And I'll tell you, the Eagle defenders are really shedding their blockers nicely.
Yeah, they're really flowing to the ball well, too. It looks like they've scouted out the different rushing plays that Plymouth Whitemarsh is going to use. And they never seem to be fooled. Always somebody in for containment in the area the back is going to.
Only a yard on that play brings up another 2nd and 9 situation for the Colonials. They send Brown to the far side. Scott comes in motion. The handoff to Kelly up the middle, and there's nothing there. Boy, I'll tell you, Brian Webster down below, but that was number 78, Doug White, who really made the play there for Norristown.
Yeah, White's going to be very important there to with his size to try and block up some of that line that time. The Eagles have had to shift Mike Ginyard into the rotation at the nose tackle and put Brian Webster out on the end. Webster's pretty quick out there, but he's been very valuable at the nose this year for Norristown.
So unlike the last series when it was 3rd and inches, now it's 3rd and 9 for the Colonials, and they put everybody into the pattern here. 4 receivers. Kelly leads out the block, and Kupfer just threw that ball out to the flat there. The intended receiver nowhere close to the ball. Poorly thrown pass brings up 4th down. That time the Kupfer brothers couldn't connect there. Stu Kupfer had no chance to help his brother out on that errant pass.
Yeah, and that's rare because they know where each other's going to be. They've grown up playing into the street and in the sandlot, so they definitely have a good rapport out there.
It's a flag on the play on 4th down here as we await the PW punt. Norristown has too many men on the field there. They sure do. A Norristown graduate, I know I can count to 12, and I just counted 12 there. Luckily for the Eagles, that'll still leave a 4th down and 4 situation for PW, but that's a mental mistake that you don't want to repeat here in this ball game against a high-powered team like Plymouth Whitemarsh. Back deep for Norristown is Audley Stewart along with Paul Pronsati. The snap is fumbled, but somehow Kupfer gets it away. It's going to bounce. The Eagles have to be careful they don't touch it. Short kick. The Eagles will take possession at their own 42-yard line, and I'll tell you, Stu Kupfer that time unable to grab the snap, and I don't know how he managed to turn and get that ball away.
It looks like the wind is really affecting things already this game.
Let's set that Norristown offense for you. They're led by the junior quarterback, Chris Blake, in the backfield. The stellar sophomore, Troy Swittenberg, number 1. His fullback is number 10, Garvin Stewart, and Garvin's opened up a lot of holes this year for Troy Swittenberg. Chris Blake sets the offense. Paul Pronsati out to wide left. Swittenberg up the middle, picks up several yards. He's dropped at the ankles by number 10, Stu Kupfer. We also expect to see at flanker number 11, Jim Zitzer, across the line for the Eagles. Number 54, DeLucia at tackle, along with 66, Yaboa Cabold. The guards, Mike Ginyard, number 71, number 78, Doug White. The center, Brian Webster, number 50. And at tight end, in for the injured Josiah Perry, is number 88, Adam Irvine. 2nd and 7 for Norristown. Blake again to Swittenberg, up the middle, Bulls ahead. Nice pickup on that play. We'll bring up 3rd and about 2 to go.
And Norristown will be facing the 4-4-3 defense of the Plymouth Whitemarsh Colonials. Across the front, Stu Kupfer, Chuck Tornetta, Brian Dugas, and Dan Kelly from left to right. The linebackers are Craig Quinn, Matt Kincaid, Tim Fleming, and Steve Whitman, the other outside linebacker. The corners are C.J. Sclafani and James Scott, and the safety, number 42, Chris Dempsey.
So on 3rd and 2 for Norristown, they set Stewart and Swittenberg in the eye. Swittenberg again, up the middle, very close. Might require a measurement, Walt. I hesitate to call that, although it's right in front of us. It's very close to a first down. And the ball is across midfield. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the key that time was Plymouth Whitemarsh getting very low on Troy Swittenberg before he could really get up into that hole, but it looks like he's fallen forward for the first down.
So 3 straight plays to Troy Swittenberg, and nothing strange about that for the Eagles. Swittenberg on the year, 1,349 yards entering this contest, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He has really been a workhorse this season for the Eagles. This time they go around the right side. Swittenberg cuts it up. A good pursuit by the Colonials. There was nothing there. Good job that time by linebacker Tim Fleming. Seal that play off to the outside.
And it's going to be tough to run outside on a defense that plays with 4 linebackers. They can really spread out and get across the field, and that time it was Fleming from the inside coming across. But it allows their inside linebackers a lot of flexibility to roam with the outside linebackers out there for containment.
Less than a yard on that play. We'll call it 2nd and 10 for Norristown. They are at the 48-yard line of Plymouth Whitemarsh, their first offensive possession. This time the play action. Blake goes up top. He's got a man open. Pronsati's got it. Puts the moves on to the outside. Pronsati for a first down and more. The Eagles down to the 30-yard line.
That is a very impressive play and a very impressive throw. Even with the wind, Chris Blake on the play action has to throw all the way across the field, about 15 yards downfield, but about 30 yards across the width of the field. Very impressive throw, and that's a real timing pattern. By the time Blake threw that ball, Paul Pronsati had not even turned around yet. But that's how these two have developed this year, really know what each other is going to do. And that time Pronsati, as he made his break, the ball was already there.
So the Eagles with first down from the Colonial 30-yard line. Blake keeps it himself, and I tell you what, we haven't seen that too much this year. It was almost always a pitch to Swittenberg.
Right, and I think they're trying to keep the Colonials off guard a little bit. They're used to that option play with Blake's pitching to Swittenberg, but that time did not look like an option at all. Chris Blake never looked to the outside, just tried to cut up inside the hole for a modest gain.
4 yards, get the Eagles down to about the 26-yard line, bring up 2nd and 6. This time Pronsati comes to the near side. Stewart and Swittenberg again in the eye. Zitzer at the flanker spot. Swittenberg's got room up the middle, but that hole closed quickly. Swittenberg picked up maybe a yard on that play.
Boy, it sure did look like he had some room. But Matt Kincaid, the linebacker, really came up to fill it. I think Swittenberg thought he had even more than we did, but as Kincaid came up to fill that hole, Swittenberg went down quickly.
So a big play here for the Eagles on their drive into Colonial territory, 3rd and 5 from the 25-yard line. This time the backs split. Blake, the quick drop, looks to the outside. He's got Zitzer open. Jim Zitzer had the ball for a first down, and folks, he just dropped it. It's cold out there, and maybe Zitzer's hand's a little icy here early on.
Yeah, and I think Jim Zitzer was just checking the down marker to make sure that he could get that first down. And as he tried to just turn his head and dive upfield to be sure that he had the first, just took his eyes off the ball a little bit.
Well thrown ball by Blake. Brings up, however, 4th and 5. And the Eagles certainly going to go for it here. Even with the wind, it'd be a heck of a long field goal for Morano at 42 yards. The Eagles put 3 receivers into the pattern to the near side. Blake under pressure. The blitz goes over the middle. Boy, I'll tell you, that was the play to Swittenberg. Just slightly overthrown by Blake. And I'll tell you what, that would have been a pretty play for the touchdown. But the Colonials take over on downs.
Yeah, and it's very, very tough to throw a touch pass, whether you're into the wind or against the wind, because the wind's going to affect it either way. That time he tried to float it up, but with this wind today, there's no floating it up. The ball's just going to take off, and even Troy Swittenberg's speed could not catch up to that one.
Well, Blake certainly knew he would have intense pressure, and the Colonials did come with the blitz, and they had the proper play selected, just weren't able to get it quite the touch that they needed to convert that into a first down, and certainly that one would have been a touchdown had it been connected. But the handoff goes to the far side to Kelly, and really nothing there again. Short gain for the Colonials.
Yeah, and I like that look that the Eagles put out there. A little bit of a different formation. They really have not thrown to any of their backs much this year, particularly down the middle. And that time they just sent Swittenberg down, and he actually did get behind a defender.
Well, I tell you what, so far it's early in this game, certainly, but it looks like the Eagles have taken advantage of the 3 weeks they've had to study the game films of Plymouth Whitemarsh, and they've seemingly devised a defensive scheme that succeeds in containing this vaunted running attack. Scott goes in motion. They go with the quick hit to Kelly up the middle, and he picks up at best another yard. It's going to bring up 3rd and about 6 yards for PW.
Yeah, and Scott and Quinn have the big yardage for PW, but Dan Kelly is the guy with the most carries, so they will use him the most, and he's not going to be the big gainer that Scott and Quinn are. But so far, they've just tried to grind it out and maybe weaken that Norristown defense a little bit for their big guns later on in the game.
Scott and Quinn certainly have the gaudy averages. Quinn with 9.6 yards a carry. And that fella, Scott, has almost 12 yards a carry, and he is close to a first down. James Scott picking his way along that far side of the field. First down. Well, I'll tell you, those Colonials don't get it by much, do they? Just enough for the first down.
Well, with this kind of running attack, it's really, 3 downs, get you 10 yards, and they keep moving. But as they showed all season long, they will break the long one, so you have to be ready for that.
We're in the first quarter here of a Thanksgiving Day football game at Norristown's Roosevelt Field. 3 minutes to play in this first quarter. We are scoreless. This is the Colonials' second possession of the ball game. Quinn comes in motion to the near side. Got a blocker out front. He's still up. Craig Quinn with a nice gain that time. Good second effort. He bounced off that initial hit. Was taken down after picking up about 7 yards on the play. It'll bring up 2nd and 3 from the 42-yard line.
And making it even tougher on the Eagle defense, you've seen that PW will run right, they will run left, and mostly with Kelly, they will run up the middle. So there is no telling who's going to get the ball or where it's going to go.
Quarterback Paul Kupfer. This time goes to Scott around the right side. He cuts inside of the corner. Fumble, ball's loose. Norristown ball. At midfield, the Eagles recover the fumble. James Scott had a nice nifty run there to his credit, and when he was hit at the end of the play, the ball popped free.
And those couple of extra yards that time cost James Scott the ball. He tried to step inside a Norristown defender, did so nicely, but as he was held up, looked like somebody ripped his arm away, and that extra little lunge by Scott made him cough the ball up. Norristown defenders eagerly awaiting him to put the ball on the ground, and with a turnover, that might really play a factor in this game.
And Walt, I'll tell you, I'm a little disappointed on that last drive for Norristown that they got so far downfield and weren't able to convert that into points, because you just don't know how many opportunities they're going to have to score in this game. But here's another golden one, taking control of the ball at the 50-yard line. The play action again. Blake has a man open front Sadi, and that time credit the wind. That ball just sailed on Kelly. It was the same play we had seen earlier on that last drive, except to the near side of the field.
Yeah, and with the wind maybe coming that way, and it really took off. Chris Blake is lucky it didn't wind up in James Scott's hands, the defender that time. Looked like it was going to sail out of bounds, but looked like Scott was a little bit fooled by the wind as well. He had the ball coming right at him, but couldn't anticipate it because he couldn't quite judge it with the wind blowing so hard.
So Roger Grove showing he's not afraid to throw the ball here on this contest.
Yeah, I think you throw it when you're going with the wind. You'll probably see him run it mostly in the second quarter.
The shotgun to the Audley Stewart, who bobbles, catches the ball on a reverse. That's going to be a big loss. Little flea flicker that time. This time Blake goes out into the flat to Audley Stewart, whom we really haven't seen very much this year. Stewart bobbled that screen and looked like it was intended to come back to Blake. And a loss of 10 yards on the play brings up 3rd and 20.
Yeah, it looked like they had all kinds of possibilities in that play, whether Stewart could just take it upfield or run back around the left end or give it back to Blake. But unfortunately, the PW defense scouted that one out well and nothing worked.
Again, out of the shotgun. Blake, a quick punt. Now that's interesting. Look at this ball roll. Chris Blake gets a fabulous bounce. It's down by Prinsati at the 11-yard line. The quick punt. Now, I don't know anybody expected that.
No, I certainly didn't, but actually it's a pretty smart play because with that loss, they're really getting buried back in their own territory, and with the wind blowing, and you're really putting yourself in a bad spot. So that play, very effective, and a lot of imagination so far from the Eagles. Certainly
it precludes a run back. Don't allow the Colonials to set up to bring the ball back upfield. Roger Grove, rather than risking a turnover, an interception on a 3rd and 20 play, elects to punt, and he does succeed in pinning the Colonials deep in their own territory. Again, they go to Scott around the right side. Milligan on the outside. Scott past Milligan. He's on the sideline. Audley Stewart and Garvin Stewart were the last two guys out there, and I'll tell you what, now we know why James Scott averages 12 yards a carry. It's when he picks up 35 a play.
Yeah, and the coaches, I'm sure, will give Don Milligan a little talking to. That time he really took a pretty bad angle. In fact, Milligan's coming out of the game right now, being replaced by number 41E instead. He did not take a very good angle that time on James Scott. And a guy with Scott's speed, you have to force him back to the inside where your help is. That time Milligan came up, tried to make the open field tackle. Scott just with little hesitation and turned on the Jets right to the outside. Milligan never touched him.
35 yards and obviously a first down for the Colonials. Up the middle this time. Big hit up the middle. I believe that was Quinn. Yes, Quinn, the ball carrier there. He was hit hard, but not before picking up about 8 yards on the play, bringing up 2nd and a long 2. So the Colonials now across midfield into Eagle territory for the first time in this game with 13 seconds to play in the first quarter. This time Quinn again, first down. He's dropped, but by the Eagles secondary. Audley Stewart, A.J. Hamaday instead, all in on the bottom of that pile. And that will be the last play of the first quarter as time expires here. So after 12 minutes, we're at a scoreless tie. Norristown at Walt, though, has had opportunity early, unable to convert it into points, however.
Well, Norristown has to be encouraged by what happened to Plymouth Whitemarsh in their playoff game against Central Bucks West 2 weeks ago. Certainly Norristown, not the caliber team that the Bucks are, but they are a fairly strong running team. And in that game, the Bucks really chewed them up, did not attempt to pass once in the entire game. 3 guys ran the ball for the Bucks. That was it. And Plymouth Whitemarsh was not able to stop it. So if they've looked at that film, they'll know that Plymouth Whitemarsh can be vulnerable to the run. You just have to do a couple different things. And so far, it looks like Norristown's trying to be imaginative, and I'm sure you'll see them run the ball now later in the game when they really need it.
You mentioned it earlier at the top of the game, but I think the Eagle running game is certainly affected by the loss of James Burrell. We have seen him do a tremendous job this year of pulling from his position, really getting outside, being the lead blocker for Swittenberg and Stewart. And without that today, I think the Eagles are at a slight disadvantage.
Well, he's what you love to have on the offensive line, especially at the tackle position, and that is an athlete. He has the size, but he really has the speed. It's rare speed for a guy in his position. And they'll miss him on defense, but he has just been creaming people offensively, getting out in front of those backs.
On first down, it's Scott again. He's got a hole up the middle. Look at him shoot that hole for another first down. Boy, I tell you, James Scott just showed us some acceleration there.
Yeah, it's tremendous acceleration, but Yeboah Cabot did all you can do. He contained him, made Scott get back up inside. And after that, it's the rest of your line and the linebacker's job to come up and fill that hole. Now, it's tough for the Eagles because they only have 2 linebackers to do that, but the line is going to have to contain him and keep him to the inside.